Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us as we kick off the month of August. Again, how does time go by so fast? How did it get to be August? How did the bulk of the summertime season pass us by so fast? I don't know. There's still time, right? There's still time to take advantage, to do the things you want to do, but don't keep putting things now on the back burner because pretty soon it'll be fall. Now, fall is a wonderful time of year. Fall is maybe my favorite time of year. But if there are summertime activities, fishing trips, camping trips, family vacations you want to sneak in before the kids or grandkids go back to school, now is the time to make that happen. One of the things that always gets my attention this time of year is when the cicadas start to buzz. Now, you might know them as cicadas. My granddad and dad called them tree locusts, but they're big, green, ugly things, and they start to buzz about this time of year. And why that gets my attention is the old saying, and in fact, I think this might have even been still, maybe even today in the Farmer's Almanac. From the time the cicadas buzz until the first frost, the old saying was, it will be 6 weeks. Well, that would mean it's going to frost in the middle of September, and that ain't going to happen. At least I don't think so. So, my dad and I, he's now gone, but when he was around, we kept track of it, and now I keep track of it, as to how long it actually is from the time the cicadas buzz until the first frost. So it's not 6 weeks. It's not even 8 weeks. It's closer to, in my observation and in my records, it's closer to 10 weeks. But then the question becomes, okay, so what is the relevance, if any, of the cicadas buzzing? If the cicadas buzz early, does that mean there's going to be an early frost? If they buzz later, is it going to be a late frost? I don't know. It's not an earth-shattering observation, but it's an interesting observation and one that I kind of have been keeping track of. Have you been hearing cicadas buzz in your neck of the woods? Let me know. Send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Let me know what part of the state you're in and whether you have been hearing cicadas and what you think it all means, if anything at all. And by the way, I love these old sayings. I think they are based in truth. They wouldn't get to be old sayings if there wasn't a grain of truth. And you want to get to the most basic old sayings? Red sky at night, sailors delight. Red sky in morning, sailors take warning. That type of thing. I've been keeping track of these over the years. I have a blog that has many of these listed. I'm always looking for more. I will always give you credit. If you have an old outdoor or weather-related saying you want to share with me, again, send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. I will give you credit, and I will post it so we can kind of keep track of these. Because you know what? We're losing. If we don't document these things, we'll lose them, and nobody will ever remember them in future generations. I'd like to keep track of them. Been busy around the Avery household. The Angler Quest Owners Tournament was last weekend on Saginaw Bay. We had almost 40 boats. We had 200 anglers. The weather cooperated. The fish cooperated. And it was a great event. It was so cool to see that many Angler Quest owners all together in one place. Talking with and thank you, Linwood Beach Marina, for hosting this, and Mr. Angler Quest, Brad Dupuis. talking with the folks at Linwood Beach, they said, this is such an interesting group of people. They said, you couldn't get this many people together for a ranger tournament, for a Lund tournament, for a skeeter tournament, whatever. There's something about the Angler Quest and the people who run those things that it's just so very cool. We were hoping to see the new prototype Angler Quest, Quest, but it's not quite ready, but it's coming. And to meet the guys who are working with Brad on building this new boat was very exciting and very cool. You know what else was very cool? Our golf outing. The first annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp was held at the West Branch Country Club. And you never know with a first-year event how it's going to turn out, what it's going to be like. But I got to tell you, it was wonderful. We had a great turnout. The weather held off. I mean, it was hot, and it was muggy that afternoon. Maybe miserably hot and miserably muggy. But that night, Mother Nature dropped 3 inches of rain on the course, and the next day they had to close the course because of flooding. So everything came together. The course was beautiful. The facilities were great. The accommodations were wonderful. We had a great turnout. Everybody had fun. The food was excellent. And I feel so blessed and so thankful for the folks who made this come together. And we will do this again next year, again to raise money for MUCC's youth camp. I feel obligated to thank the people here publicly, on air and online, who helped make this happen. MUCC, when the concept first came together, when somebody first proposed, hey, Avery, why don't you have a golf outing? Because this all came about from a Wednesday night live. I was talking about my goals for the upcoming summer. I wanted to fish more. I wanted to play more golf. Well, a guy named Bill Lincoln was on a Wednesday night live, and he says, Avery, why don't you have a golf outing? I'm like, I never thought of having a golf outing. I don't know anything about a golf outing. And then the conversation started, you can raise money. These can be fundraisers. And I thought, well, if we can have a golf outing and raise money, yeah, maybe I would. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to be involved in a golf outing, it's going to be outdoor related. It's going to be something to raise money for the outdoors. I got thinking, what could it be? What could it be? Getting kids involved in the outdoors. Youth camp, MUCC, I'm already partnered with them. We'll raise money for their youth camp. I got in touch with the folks at MUCC, and I said, are you interested in this? They said, absolutely. So I got to thank MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs, for partnering with me on this. They all got involved. They did a great job. Steve Wyndham was the guy who actually ran this thing. I put my name on it. I got it started, and I promoted it, but it was MUCC who actually ran things behind the scenes. So thank you. Tom Hornbacher of the West Branch Country Club. The facilities were outstanding. The course was beautiful. The food was great. The staff was wonderful. Everybody there went out of their way to help us out, and we will be back there again next year. Security Credit Union, Northern Jack Pine branch of the National Deer Association. GFL Environmental Services, my buddy Mark Halston made that happen. Craig and Michelle Plowman, they stepped up to help out. Scott Keatson of Linwood Taxidermy. The Grillo family of Michigan Brand Meats. Jay's Sporting Goods, Primal Outdoors. Andy Weiss of Truck Trolley. A Forward Corporation, Lumberjack Restaurant, Gigi and Emil Russo. Rapid River Knife Works. Rec Broadheads, Alpha Media, Brent Schinkel, BAS Custom Rods, Trophies Africa. John and Debbie Craves, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, they said, you know what, this sounds great. We're going to help sponsor the event. Thank you. I appreciate that. My brothers and sisters at my church, Trinity Monitor. The Athletic Boosters and the Wild Game Dinner Committee both sponsored the event. J.T. Archibald of Fish Junkie Charters, Doug Ward of Express Charters, Jeff Tropf of Leland Charters, Diebold Insurance, Yider Insurance, Heine Knob Vernon Insurance, Pizza Sam's of Midland, Whitmore Lake Rod and Gun Club, T.J. Johnson Forestry, my neighbor Nick Sheet. I was walking around his house the other night, and he said, hey, Mike, come here, I got something for you. I heard you talking about your golf outing coming up, and I got something to give you. It's just incredible how many people came together to make this happen, to raise money for a good cause. You never know with a first-year event how it's going to turn out, but as this thing started to get steam and to get legs and snowball, it was obvious that we were on the right track, doing something people wanted to be a part of and raise money for a great cause. thank you, everybody involved. I do greatly appreciate it, and we will have another Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing next year at the West Branch Country Club to benefit MUCC's youth camp. Details on that as we get closer. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, after the break, a guy who helped us with the event, Chris Durson of Rapid River Knives. That company, that UP company, is going crazy right now. They've got new products, new website, expansion to the building, improvements to the building. I don't know what's going on up there. I'm going to check in with Chris and find out. Then Chad Stearns of Jay's Sporting Goods. The Jay's Weber Outdoor Education Center / Museum is now fully open. We'll talk to Chad about that. In our second hour, a guy I met at the Angler Quest Owners Tournament. He is Jeff Tropf. He fishes out of Leland. I have never talked to a captain who fishes out of Leland. I want to know about fishing northern Lake Michigan, what it's like. Steve Wyndham of MUCC joins us with a debrief on the outing to talk more about that. Then this week's Ask Avery segment, a last-minute fill-in. Captain Lance Valentine jumps in to talk about how you troll in weedy areas. How do you keep the weeds off your bait? And in our third hour, Richard P. Smith talks bear hunting, the NRC, deer hunting regs for the fall, and more. And we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'm glad you're with us. I hope you can stick around for the rest of this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK, that's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette, WDMJ, 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is, well, it's brought to you by the company that, well, they make this sound right here. Their products make this sound. That's the sound of my Rapid River knife coming out of my pocket and locking back open. I am so impressed with the Rapid River, their products, the people. In fact, I got this email yesterday from Ray. By the way, their website rapidriverknifeworks.us. I got this email yesterday from a guy named Ray Cruz, and he says, "Hey, Mike, I wanted to let you know that the staff at Rapid River Knife Works is awesome." And he puts this all in capital letters with an exclamation. "I took my son Jace there today on our way home back to Birch Run from Escanaba, and I purchased a mini Uper knife. So happy with how friendly and professional the staff is. Plus, they engraved my name on the handle. Thanks for recommending them on your program." That's from Ray Cruz. I don't have a hard time recommending Rapid River Knife Works at all. And the company right now is, I don't know what's going on up there, but it's like they're expanding, they're growing. So I figured, well, to learn more about this, why don't we just get Chris Durson, the man behind Rapid River, on the show? And it's hard to get Chris on the show right now because the guy's busy. Hey, Chris, welcome back. How are you?
Great to be here, Mike. How are you?
Well, I'm doing great, but man, I'm hearing so much out of Rapid River lately. What is going on up there?
We're just always moving forward, always coming up with new ideas and trying to make our product better and the whole shopping experience for people better, both online and in store. So we're completely redoing our website right now. That's going to make it a lot easier for people to shop on their mobile phone, from anywhere. And we're also redoing the whole outside of the retail store, dressing that up a little bit. So yeah, we're making it easier and more enjoyable.
I hope you don't change the inside too much because that's absolutely perfect the way it is.
No, the inside has always been beautiful, but the outside always kind of looked like just a manufacturing facility. And people would always come in like every single day and say, "Wow, I didn't realize it was nice in here," and they're shocked. So I heard that one too many times, and finally said, "You know what? That's enough." But it is a 15,000 square foot building, so when you decide to remodel it, it is a pretty big undertaking, and that's about 75% done right now. So,
but you're still open.
Absolutely.
Okay.
7 days a week.
Hey, that email that I just read that I got from Ray Cruz about his experience with you guys, I get those all the time, Chris.
Yeah, it's really nice to see that feedback, and that's what we strive for is customer service. It's a great feeling to have someone come in here and watch them light up and get excited about our products and our store, and essentially becoming part of the RRK family. It's pretty neat. So when a guy buys a knife or buys his kid his first hunting knife, that's an honor that he chose to Rapid River to be the first knife, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that we'll always take care of that knife and that product forever, as long as the knife's around.
Remind me the history of how you got to where you are.
So I originally started this company in a barn with a dirt floor and one buffer and one grinder. Started it myself in the summer of 2001. And I ended up moving up on the highway in Rapid River to my first retail location in the early 2002. It was an old gas station, run-down little place. We had one display case in it. Opened that up and rented it. In a couple of years' time, I ran out of room. Went down the highway, found my current location, and since then I've had to add on 3 times.
Wow.
So a lot of growing pains. They never stop, but they're the good kind.
How did you learn to make a knife?
I started by working at Marble Arms in Gladstone. Yep. While I was going to college, I'd go in and I'd work all the hours I could, and then at night they gave me a key to go in and work on the old stuff that from the early 1900s all the way up to that was built through the 1990s. All the refurbishments and sharpenings and polishing. So I really got to learn how to actually make a knife from start to finish and take one apart and put it back together. So I had all the knowledge that I needed as far as building a knife. I didn't have any idea how to run a business, but when I first started, but I knew that customer service had to be at the top of the list. If I get one guy and I keep him happy and don't give him any reason to go look somewhere else for a knife, I'll have him for the rest of my life. And it works out that way most of the time.
So what's more important in making a knife? Is it making it nice and good looking so people will reach in and buy it off the shelf, or is it making it strong and tough?
Well, it's a combination of both, because you can make it as good looking as you want, and if that person buys it and you didn't start with good quality steel or good quality handle material and it falls apart or the blade doesn't hold an edge, then they're going to be upset about that purchase. So we start with the high quality steel, the real high quality handle material, and then we build a beautiful knife so they have both the best of both worlds. They have a beautiful knife that they can always use that holds an edge, and then whenever they want it sharpened or polished, they simply send it back to us or stop in, and we recondition the knife free for life.
Do you get many people who do that?
Daily. I've got about 500,000 knives floating around the world now. So you can imagine, at any given point, there's knives coming in every day. They're coming through the front door or coming in the mail to be refurbished. That's part of the new process that we just built into our new website. You can get online. You can fill out a shipping and polishing or a warranty repair form. If it's just a reconditioning, they can fill the form out, tell us what they're sending, tell us what they want. They prepay for the return shipping, so they don't have to put a check in the box. And it comes to us. We know it's coming because it's in our system. We recondition it and send it back out that day.
What's involved in reconditioning?
So we buff the blade completely clean of anything they may have gotten on it, whether it's a little carbon spots or if they let it get real bad and didn't oil it, any rust or anything we can remove, we completely clean it, satin finish it, and then we sharpen and polish it. We do the same thing with the handle. If the handle material moved a little bit and doesn't feel quite right, if it shrunk or expanded, we will rework it, sand it down, repolish it, and then the day they get it back, it feels like it's brand new, like the day they got it.
Wouldn't you love to hear, and maybe you do hear some of these stories, wouldn't you love to hear the stories about these knives that either leave your showroom in the first place or come back to you for refurbishing?
Oh, absolutely. I love to hear the stories. I mean, these knives have just been all over the world and been literally everywhere. And some people bring them in. It looks like they drug them behind the truck on the way in. I don't, you know. But yeah, as long as people are honest with us with what they did, I mean, our warranty covers everything against obviously our craftsmanship or a defect in the material. But I mean, if you're prying the trunk of a car open with it, we typically don't warranty that if you break it. Now, if you're a nice person and you tell us the truth and don't try to lie to us, chances are we're gonna either fix it or get you something new. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty impressive customer service.
It is. It's something you don't find anymore, and when you can tell somebody that or actually show them. I had a gentleman in the store a couple weeks ago that he had a bunch of pocket lint in his knife and didn't keep it cleaned out. So when he went to close it one time, it broke the spring in the knife, and he knew it, and I knew it, but there were a whole bunch of people in the storeroom or in the showroom. So I just said, hey, why don't you go ahead? Here's that knife. Pick out a brand new one in here. Pick out the best one you like, the one you want. So he picked one out. I handed him the new one and took the old one. I mean, he couldn't believe it. But that's how we do it.
So is that what this whole thing comes down to? Is that why you've had to expand 3 times? Is that why you've had to do a new website? Is that why you've had to redo the outside?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the quality of the product and the customer service. So if you have one and not the other, it doesn't work. So you have to have a very high quality product, and you have to have excellent customer service.
Are your knives all still made by hand? It's been a while since I've been in the shop. Am I going to come in there and find some new robot putting knives together?
There is, yeah. You can still look through the window. I had a guy, we have this little chat widget on our website now, and if you get on there and you ask a question, you're going to be talking to one of us here, and we'll tell you all about the knives. A guy this morning said, where are your knives made? And, so I literally went and took a picture from inside the factory store and the showroom and sent him pictures of the guys working on the knives.
How long does it take for you to teach somebody this process? Because I feel like it's an art form.
It is. So if you're talking about the whole ball of wax, some people never get it. Some people are really good at sharpening, but not at sanding down handles, and vice versa. Some people are good at all of it, but that takes years. I mean, so to be able to do it from start to finish, I mean, it's a minimum of 5 years. If we just want somebody to build the handles and, assemble them, we have people that just do that. Then we have people that just finish and sharpen and polish. And then we have people who can do all of it.
So is every knife different and individual in some way?
Absolutely, yeah. First of all, there's all the woods that we use are all unique. Every knife is hand sanded down and hand shaped, so we have a model, but no two are exactly alike because we're hand sanding and hand grinding them down to finish them. So there are no two alike.
So when I say on air here that these things are handcrafted by artists in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, that's not an overstatement. That's not an exaggeration.
Absolutely 100% truth.
Hey,
and I like,
yeah.
So people can watch right through our window in our retail store and watch them being made.
Well, that's pretty cool. Hang tight, Chris. I got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. We're talking with Chris Durson of Rapid River Knives. The website, we now call it RRK, right? Rapid River Knives. RRK. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us is the website. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us is the website to check out. I was on there just the other day just to see what all this hubbub is about the new website, and it is indeed pretty cool. I keep expanding my collection of Rapid River knives, and I keep buying more for my friends and family. But you know what? It's kind of a good addiction to have. I always say, what do I say? I say a knife is one of the most valuable tools that somebody who is in the outdoors can have. I carry mine with me all the time. Not always the same knife, but it's always a Rapid River knife. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more with Chris. Then we'll wrap up the hour with Chad Stearns of Jay's Sporting Goods talking about their new Weber Wildlife Education Center. That is pretty cool, too. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN, and you can hear us in the Sioux on WKNW 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based, family-owned Killer Food Plots. You know I love that. The fall food plot planting season now is coming up just around the corner. Time to start getting ready. Rich Grzan of Killer Food Plots says, make sure you get your soil samples. Then you know what to deal with. I'm going to get Rich on the show here in the next couple of weeks to talk more about this, but what you do right now can directly affect your hunting this fall. It's coming up fast. The website, killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. Right now we're talking with Chris Durson of Rapid River Knives, rapidriverknifeworks.us. Chris, the new website, can folks still use that Avery 10 promo code?
Absolutely. All caps, Avery, and the number 10. And they get 10% off anything on site-wide.
What if you come into the store? Does it work the same way?
Oh, yeah. We get people that come in all the time that want to use it. So we give the same discount in-store.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Last time we talked, you were working on a new model of knife. Is that in production now?
So we had several in production. One of them is that's now for sale. We've sold quite a few already. Is the Uper Junior, which is a half-size version of the knife that you carried. And the next one that we're going to be coming out with very soon is our folding fillet knife. Those are in production now. I would say that we'll have some ready to be finished up and built here in the next 2-3 weeks.
So if we come into the shop now, can we see those, or we're still waiting a little bit yet?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
They aren't for sale. They're still in their rough form, in the rough shape, but we've got some ready that we're running through the process, and sanding and sharpening and polishing, but you can see them for sure.
Okay, but just to be clear, they're not quite for sale yet.
And that's going to be about 2 or 3 weeks and we'll be ready to sell our first 100.
I think so you've got the Uper, what's the real small one, the Mini?
The Mini, yep.
And then this other one is called the Junior?
Yeah, so it's the Uper Junior. It's a 50% version of your Uper pocket clip.
I think that's going to be
the same one you have, half the size.
I think that's going to be a popular one too.
It's been lights out. So we put it on our website, and we put a countdown timer on it, and we'll let people know if you want to be notified when this is available for sale online, put your email right here. So enough people signed up that the first 50 were labeled first production run, 1 of 50. The day that we launched it, those first 50 is sold out in about an hour and 40 minutes.
See, that tells you that you're doing something right. Since I started working with you just a couple of years ago, a few years ago now, the growth I've seen from your company has been very, very impressive. Good job, Chris.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right, so we get one of your knives. How do we keep these things sharp? I mean, I've talked to you about this before. My dad was an expert at putting a blade on a whetstone and getting the perfect edge. When he was done, you could shave with it. Unfortunately, he didn't pass that ability down to me.
Yeah, so I recommend after field dressing a deer or using a pocket knife every day, I mean, every once in a while, even strap it on the back of a belt like a barber would strap, you just you're just trying to break that little edge off at the end, the burr off the edge of the blade. If you do that from time to time, it will keep your edge sharper longer before you even have to grind it or pull it through one of our knife sharpeners or put it on a whetstone. If you don't ever touch it and the burr turns into a huge burr and it breaks off, then it has to be sharpened, reground, and then you just have a lot of work. So, and even just something as simple as keeping a little oil on it, some food-safe, food-grade oil. Keep it on the blade. The edge won't rust or tarnish because that dulls the knife too. Some real simple things like that can get you a lot more edge life.
So I'm going to ask you a stupid question. I thought, well, and again, forgive me, this is a stupid question. I didn't know high-quality steel actually rusted.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So this surgical stainless thing that you see all the time,
yeah,
that's all smoke and mirrors. That's the worst steel that you could possibly use in a knife that you want to hold an edge. It has no carbon in it. It's only sharp for one cut. If you get a surgeon, I guarantee there's some surgeons listening to you right now that could attest that while during surgery, one of their knives made out of the surgical stainless might be used for one cut, and they might use 50 different knives during a single surgery because that blade isn't high quality.
Yeah,
do you remember the old Chicago cutlery knives that kind of grayed up a little bit, but they stayed sharp forever?
Yeah.
This is the same concept. Those are full of carbon. It's great steel, but you have to keep some oil on them. If you don't and they tarnish up and gray up a little bit, it's not a defective knife. There's nothing wrong with it. It just means that you cut something acidic or something like that, but it does not mean that it's a bad knife.
Gotcha.
If it doesn't tarnish, chances are that knife will never hold an edge.
I learn something every time I talk with you, Chris. Hey,
yeah, it's a process, but it's pretty neat.
Keep up the good work. I'm real excited to see what's going on there. The website, rapidriverknifeworks.us. Make sure you stop by the showroom on US 2, just east of Rapid River, and check it out. And if Chris is in there, stop by and say hi and shake his hand and tell him that you heard about him on the Outdoor Magazine Show. Always a pleasure, Chris. We'll talk again.
Sounds good, Mike.
All right, Chris Durson of Rapid River Knives, rapidriverknifeworks.us. Use the promo code Avery10, get 10% off on your knife in-store or in the showroom. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the new Wildlife Museum in Clare at Jay's Sporting Goods right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show on Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM. You can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination. And as I said earlier, they were the site of the third annual Angler Quest Owners Tournament last weekend. They do such a great job there. I mean, the facilities are wonderful. The boat launch is great. There's a full marine shop, a wonderful campground. They're right there on the shore of Saginaw Bay. But I think the best thing about Linwood Beach Marina is the people. The people out there are very customer service oriented. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. While you are online, please go to my website, mikeaveryoutdoors.com, and jump on over to jaysportinggoods.com. That, of course, the website of Jay's Sporting Goods. Exciting things going on at Jay's in Clare. There is a new building there across the parking lot, south of Jay's, that is now open. It is the, and I might not have the right name here, but it's the Jay's Weber Outdoor Education Center or Wildlife Museum, something along that line. I have not been in there yet, which is a shame because it is now officially open. Chad Stearns of Jay's Sporting Goods with us now to talk more about that. Hey, Chad, welcome back to the show. How have you been, buddy?
I'm doing well, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. So, what is the official name, Chad?
That is the Jay's Weber Wildlife and Education Center.
What is it?
Well, it is the coolest 16,000 square foot building full of life-size mounts you have ever seen.
And it's now officially open, right? Open to the public now.
It is, yes. July 5th we opened. Finally, it's been about a 2-year process. There's a gentleman that had Mr. Wayne Weber, who was in the concrete business and a billionaire and had a place down in Macomb County. And before he passed, he wanted to make sure his legacy of hunting and conversation would live on in perpetuity. So he approached the Poet family, and they agreed to put his building on our property. So they broke ground in 2021, and we finished. After all the inspections and jumping through all the hurdles, it was quite a adventure. But we opened on July 5th, and it's 300 plus mounts, all life size in accurate habitat. It is the most spectacular thing I have ever seen, and I'm humbled to be a part of it.
So, listen, how realistic is this? I mean, you and I have been to Africa twice. We've been to Alaska. When you walk in there and you go to an Africa or Alaskan exhibit in the museum, is it indeed lifelike?
It is the closest thing to lifelike I've ever experienced. So they hired a gentleman from Massachusetts. He came in. He spent 2 years hand painting the murals on the walls, and some folks out of Shepherd, Randy and Rita Mitchell, that do wild rooms, built all the habitat in the mountains, and it is specific to the animals' natural habitat. So it's all habitat accurate from all across the world. Europe, there's ibex, there's elephants, giraffe, polar bears, bongos from Central Africa. I mean, it is, the word I used when we were putting this together was world class. We had visited Ferris State University, and their museum director said, your facility is world class. And I didn't, I've seen trophy rooms, and I've been a part of that. I enjoy that. It is hard to put into words, and I would share that with people like, oh, this is a world-class facility. And they'd be like, Jeff, what in the heck are you talking about? World-class. And a few of them came to some of our VIP events and the grand opening. They were like, okay, I totally understand what you're saying. That is unbelievable. Everybody needs to see it. It's just fabulous.
Well, that was my next question. Who is it designed for? Is it for hunters, non-hunters, kids, school groups, what?
It's for everybody. Everybody, literally. One of the things that Mr. Weber was passionate about was sharing the message of conservation and how sportsmen actually provide and enhance, wildlife populations and habitat establishment and those things, and across the world. He would fund waterhole projects in Africa or habitat development in Europe. I mean, he was very philanthropic that way. And in one meeting with Jeff, and they struck a chord on that conservation note, and they knew it was just going to be a good fit. So we've had school groups come through. I've intentionally invited non-hunters, wanted to get their feel before we opened, gave them a private tour, and everybody is just blown away. They love it.
Well, I can't wait to see it. I mean, the earlier pre-opening events, you guys have invited me to. I haven't been able to make it. I'm going to get up there and see it. I can't wait. Chad, congrats on getting this thing together, and I'll wish you continued luck there at Jay's.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Chad Stearns of Jay's Sporting Goods, jaysportinggoods.com, jaysportinggoods.com. Check out this new museum. I got to get up there. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, Captain Jeff Tropf talks about fishing northern Lake Michigan, specifically out of Fishtown, Leland. How cool is that? Steve Wyndham of MUCC talks more about our golf outing that was so successful, and this week's Ask Avery segment, all coming up in Hour 2 of Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across this great state of Michigan. And I appreciate you being along with us. I do say always the best way to listen to this show, if you can, is on your local radio station, your local AM or FM station. If you can't, if your local station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, isn't it nice to know there's a podcast version of the show that's available? Now, the broadcast version and the podcast version are exactly the same content, just delivered in a different method. The podcast is not uploaded each weekend until after the broadcast stations, my broadcast affiliates, have had a chance to air the show. But once the show has been aired, the podcast version then becomes available. You can hear that on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. On my Facebook page, it's on probably any podcast outlet. Wherever you hear your podcasts, you listen to your podcasts, you can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. I even put it up on YouTube every month, and that's or every week, and that's on Sunday evening. Those are available. I do like podcasting, though. Each month I do podcasts for offshore tackle, for Angler Quest boats, and for Primal Outdoors. And when we're done here in the studio recording this week's radio show, I'm going to record a Primal Outdoors podcast with Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters. We're going to talk about bear hunting, baiting bear. It's interesting because before I started going up there to hunt with Ron, his hunters did not hunt from the ground. They all hunted from tree stands. I went up there with a Primal blind. In fact, at the time, it was the Wraith 270 see-through blind. And everybody started to get, interested and curious. They said, that's kind of fun. Why do you do it? And I explained to them that it was up close and personal, and the bears are right there eye to eye, and it could be very effective. So we'll talk about that and more. That's on this edition of the Primal Podcast. I told you that last weekend there was the 3rd annual Angler Quest Owners Tournament out of Linwood Beach Marina. I love those events. I love to talk with folks who are running Angler Quests, who are sold on the platform. I love to see the fish that come in, and it's just an interesting opportunity to meet new people. One of the folks I met last weekend is a guy I'd never talked to before. His name is Jeff Tropf, and he is a charter captain out of northern Lake Michigan, Leland, Fish Town. Now, the farthest north I've ever fished on Lake Michigan is Frankfort. I've never fished out of Leland. And also, an interesting side note, Jeff learned of our golf outing by listening to the radio show, and he made a contribution to our event while we were there at the Angler Quest Owners Tournament, even though he couldn't make the golf outing. So that's the type of guy he is. I thought, it would be interesting to talk with him about how that fishery on northern Lake Michigan is different than some of the other parts of our state. And he has agreed to join me on this edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. And he's on the phone line now. Hey, Jeff, welcome to the show. How are you?
Mike, I am well. How are you?
I'm doing great. It was really nice to meet you and talk to you about your background. You're a pretty interesting guy, Jeff.
Well, I'm following your lead because I have listened to you forever and ever and ever, and it was great to put a face with a name that I've listened to for years and years and years, as we all love the outdoors. So it was great to meet you, and thank you for this opportunity.
How did you get to where you're at? You're a Michigan guy, aren't you? You grew up in Michigan?
I grew up in Holt, little town of Holt. Went to Michigan State for a year, went to Holt High School, actually, and then on to Michigan State and then on to Central. And when all of that ended, I ended up in a little town of Suttons Bay, Michigan. And I taught biology for 30 years and then moved to Northport for 6 years, where I was a superintendent of schools. And during all of that time, from probably 1989, I have fished out of the port of Leland after growing up fishing all of the southern Michigan ports from Grand Haven north.
Well, why there? Why did you end up there?
My father had a home in Suttons Bay. He was a GM employee in Lansing. And just on an odd coincidence, I had a degree in biology when I finished doing what I was doing before I got into education. And ran into a superintendent named Pat Goddard at Suttons Bay Schools, Johnny's Barbershop of all places in Suttons Bay. And he said, Jeff, you ought to come coach basketball and teach biology. And that kind of did it. And then the thing that sealed that was I found out that there were all kinds of trout and salmon in both Grand Traverse Bay, Suttons Bay, Northport Bay, and the Port of Leland.
What a beautiful part of our state to settle down in.
You know, it really is, and it's a little unique when you go out of a lot of the ports, and you mentioned Frankfurt, and I've fished out of Frankfurt a lot. You know, you go out and you fish a shoreline, or with the evolution of the new deep water fishery or the offshore fishery, you know, there's a multitude of places to fish, or you could go around into Platte Bay, but from Platte Bay north, we've got the Sleeping Bear Dunes, the Empire Shoreline, and in our fishing area, we can go south into Good Harbor Bay, 9 or 10 miles. We can go down into Sleeping Bear Bay. Sleeping Bear Point's about 18 miles from our port. We can fish all of that structure. We have North and South Manitou Island, and around both of those islands are all kinds of fish holding structure. We can fish up the length of the Leland Peninsula into Cathead Bay, and then around into Northport, which would be in our fishing area. So we have all kinds of glacial up and down reefs, offshore rock piles, and things like that we can fish that's a little different than the traditional Lake Michigan or Lake Huron fishing port.
Well, we met through our mutual friend Craig Plowman at the Angler Quest Owners Tournament. Hey, by the way, what did you fished on Craig's Angler Quest? What did you think of that platform?
You know, what's interesting is I fish a 31 Tierra, 31 feet long, 12 feet wide. It's a big, stable boat, and I had equally as much fun. And I met Brad Dupuy down at a Grand Rapids boat show, and I was sitting on, and he happened to come up, and we struck up quite a conversation. So I had been on one on a trailer at a sports show, but being able to go out with Craig, Craig brings his grandkids every year to Leland, and we fish together. I met Craig at that sports show, and I am still to this, you know, it's been a couple of days now, but I am just taken aback, and I'm stunned by the performance of an Angler Quest pontoon. We fished, I'm not familiar with Saginaw Bay at all. I've only been on it a couple of times, but we fished way out beyond the shipping channel. I'm going to guess 15, 16 miles out. We ran back into that southwest, I don't know, foot chop with a little bit of wind on it. I think we were 35 miles an hour with no movement, no pounding, no nothing. We had 5 people on the boat. It fished equal to the back deck of my 31. So I was very well impressed. And I fish a StarCraft 196 when I'm not in the other, and big, wide open boat, as you know. And this Angler Quest is really something special.
Well, you don't have a lot of experience down on Saginaw Bay. You guys got into some nice fish that day, but our walleye don't fight like your fish, do they?
You know, and I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. I've never been one of those guys. If people enjoy hunting and fishing, they should be able to enjoy however they want to hunt and fish. And I don't care what I'm doing. If somebody says, let's go bluegill fishing, I never equate it to my 40 years out, you know, charter fishing out of Leland. Everything is relative, and it doesn't matter whether you pheasant hunt, duck hunt, bird hunt, however you do that or whatever you're catching, everything is relative. And as I slow down in the charter fishing end of things, I will not slow down in the hunting and fishing, but I plan on chasing walleye. I just thoroughly enjoy it, and it has nothing to do with whether they pull or whether they don't pull. They're delicious on the table, and you don't catch them by accident. You really got to go out and you got to be presenting what they want, how they want it, or you're really not going to do well. I do know that much about walleye.
Jeff, I love your philosophy. I appreciate you saying that. Craig, you said Craig brings his grandkids up early in the year, and you guys go after lake trout. Tell me more about that. He said that's a wonderful trip.
Well, what happens is we'll have access to the lake at ice out, and we're, you know, typically on a typical winter, that might be the middle of May by the time that all of the ice and snow is gone and the harbors are free of ice. And what happens, these lake trout are very deep, and they're not accessible typically in that springtime until that water gets up into that 43, 45 degrees. And then what those fish do is they migrate up on all of our shoals, and they're chasing both alewives, if alewives are availability, but they're also chasing bullby, which are up on top of these shoals, and we'll be setting downriggers anywhere from 20 to 30, 40 feet of water. And because we're all glacial up here, and because we have all of that structure in all of these different bays, we catch trout to 20 pounds in shallow water. And Craig's been out on a couple of times that you put a bait down 20 feet, and it's a matter of seconds before it goes off. And the bad thing is we typically sell 5-hour charters, and a lot of times we have our 2-fish limit per person, 10, 12 fish in under an hour.
That's a good problem to have. We're talking with Captain Jeff Tropf his website is lelandcharterfishing.com, lelandcharterfishing.com. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll talk more about that Northern Lake Michigan fishery. I think it's a unique fishery. You know, fishing out of Leland, you probably visited Fishtown. It's a very cool place. When my dad was around, he used to fish out of Leland once in a while. I never made it up there with him. I wish I would have. Anyway, we'll talk more with Jeff after the break. Then we'll check in with Steve Wyndham of MUCC, kind of a debrief on our big golf outing. I'm telling you, it was a wonderful, wonderful success. And then this week's Ask Avery question, Captain Lance Valentine jumps in at the last minute to help me out there. That's coming up in hour 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro, WKYO 1360 AM, WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on the Twister, 92.1 WTWS. And you can hear us north of the bridge, this time in Escanaba, WCHT 600 AM 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Premier Maritime Training. If you've ever wanted to get your captain's license, I think this is your best bet. Captain John Littlefield taught my captain's class, and believe me, if he can help me become a licensed charter captain, he can help you as well. Check out the website, pmtcaptains.com, for more info. That's pmtcaptains.com. John has classes across the state. I'm sure you can find one that fits your schedule. Again, that's pmtcaptains.com. Right now, talking with Captain Jeff Tropf. He fishes out of Leland. His website, lelandcharterfishing.com, lelandcharterfishing.com. Hey, Jeff, I got my license. I think I was over 60 years old. You got yours as a young man, didn't you?
You know, once I moved to Sutton's Bay, I was in a class the next couple of years, so I've had my license, I believe, since 1982, which would have put me about 24. And, you know, back then, Leland, County and everything was pretty small town, but in the summertime, the population grew, and they don't have charters like in Linwood Beach Marina where the boat or the marina is full of charter boats. It's totally unlike that. We have a beautiful municipal marina, but they do not have commercial businesses there. So there are 8 charter boats, a part of the Manitou charter fleet. We rent our docks from the same people who have the Manitou Island Transit. It's really small town. Everybody who has captained there has been there a very, very long time, and those slips never become available. So there's only 2 boat slips that are available for transient boaters that are fishing. If you can imagine coming up from Detroit or Lansing and coming up 127 or 75, you got to get to Grayling, and then it's 2-lane roads all the way to Leland. We're 38 miles to Frankfort by water, probably an hour up M22. So it's not an easy destination pulling a boat to get there. But it's spectacular, and the population in the summertime this place has been fully discovered now, and there are a lot of people with only 8 charter boats in Leland. There are a couple of hundred, I believe, in Frankfort. So it's a pretty small town, and we do not have the traffic like I experienced when we fish Saginaw Bay, where there's boats as far as you can see. A lot of times we're fishing by ourselves or maybe with another couple of charter boats.
And you've got the Manitou Islands out there. Do you fish near them? Does that help your resource? Does that help your fishing at all?
Yeah, because that structure all the way around there back, as both of us started fishing, the goal was to wherever that temperature band, that 48 to 55 degrees, wherever that hit the bottom, we kind of followed those drop-offs. And up here we have these really steep drop-offs. We got pretty good pretty early at being able to follow these drop-offs and marking them on our GPS. But this fishery, as you know, has evolved that we catch them on the drop-offs, but we also catch them up 400, 500, 600 feet well away from any structure. We have discovered that these salmon will suspend, and they just travel, and they're going to follow bait and push bait, and we fish to wherever they're at. But we certainly do fish all around both of the islands. And, a couple of days ago, we loaded the cooler with big kings right 3/4 of a mile out of the Leland Harbor.
Oh, nice.
So the biomass of salmon isn't what it used to be back before the DNR stopped playing them in an attempt to save the biomass of alewives. We've had a pretty good push of salmon here this last month. Last year in August was really good up and down the coast. I expect that to probably be the same. It's not the biomass that everybody was used to, say, 7, 8, 9 years ago, but it's very good fishing. And then we also have world-class trout fishing, catch a lot of fish, over 15, catch a lot of fish to 21, 22 pounds.
Steelhead too, or just Lakers?
I've caught one steelhead. We caught him this year. I haven't caught a steelhead. My son, who's a captain in Leland as well, is an Orvis-endorsed guide on the rivers, and he was part of that push to have catch and release on some of the rivers with a kill of only one fish per day, et cetera. The steelhead fishing in our area, and where we used to run offshore to the scum line or the upwellings of the colder water, that we have not done that in quite a few years. Whatever's changed with the ecology, whatever's changed with the water, we catch an occasional steelhead. I'm aware of a handful of steelhead caught. We catch very few brown trout. Where back in the day we used to be able to catch brown trout all spring long. So that has changed as well.
So for you, it's primarily kings and Lakers.
Kings and Lakers is what we do. We get an occasional coho. Even when those coho are in by the hundreds of thousands in Platte Bay, we will have days where we'll get into them, but most of the time it's kings and lake trout.
Any Atlantics at all over there, Jeff?
A couple of people have caught brown trout here this last week, and whether they're brown trout or whether they're Atlantic salmon, sometimes it takes a biologist to tell you the difference between the two. We don't do that. We do have some guys in this area that go up into the Detour Passage and fish those fish back in June. Lake Superior State's done a good job with that program, and I know they get some in northern Lake Huron. We typically don't see those either.
Where you fish there, your home water, is so much different than my home water of Saginaw Bay in so very many ways. One of them is we are not in the consent decree. Well, we're part of it, but we don't have to deal with nets like you guys do. Is that a problem? Are you trolling around nets? What's the situation up there now, Jeff?
Carlson's Fishery through Fishtown Preservation bought all of the old Carlson licenses, and they still set trap nets. They can only catch whitefish, and they can set deep water nets for chubs. We rarely fish in that area. And then with the consent agreement, I know Bill Rastetter, the attorney for the Grand Traverse Band. I know Ed and Cindy John had their kids in school. I know Bill Fowler. I've had his kids in school and on sport teams and things like that. We have had a wonderful relationship. At the same time, through the casinos, the Leland Sands and Turtle Creek, operated by the Grand Traverse Band, they give 2% of the revenues of their electronic gaming to municipal causes. I have written hundreds of thousands of dollars with grants on behalf of Northport Public School if we ever needed anything. So my opinion is, even though that you have read a lot about the agreements, and in our area, in my experience, the past 40 years, we've had a great working relationship. We are not dodging nets every day. We have a 50-50 shared resource, and I think it pretty much is on line with that, and I don't hear any communication back and forth where, the Grand Traverse Band took more or the sport fishing took more. We recognize where each other fish. It's sustainable. The only thing that's throwing a wrinkle in that is the House Bill 5108 to allow the commercial take of walleye, perch, lake trout, and things like that. That would throw a considerable monkey wrench in the management of the Great Lakes. And I'm not sure. I've spoken with Representative Morgan from Ann Arbor, who authored the bill. I've spoken with my representative in the 103rd, Betsy Kofia, and they've created a narrative that wouldn't it be great to have everybody be able to eat Michigan fish? Well, everybody has that opportunity now through their fishing licenses, through knowing people who fish, etc. and they're not making any more fish to divide the fish up anymore. So the non-native fishing right now is limited to whitefish and chub. I would think that the landscape in Saginaw Bay would change drastically, even if there was a bycatch allotment. When I asked Representative Morgan when we met on a Zoom call, my only question was, do you plan for this legislation to go the natural path of anything dealing with a natural resource in the state of Michigan, which would be through the DNR, through the biologists, through the Natural Resources Commission, or would this be standalone legislation? Representative Morgan indicated that his plan would be a piece of standalone legislation. The problem is we have about 30 co-sponsors, both Republican and Democrat, of that bill, and about 85% of those are first-term legislators. So what you would have the resources in Saginaw Bay, the resources out of Leland, all of the Great Lakes outside of the tribal ceded water being fished commercially by people who have not contributed to the fishery. This fishery was built by the DNR and is built by sportsmen and sportswomen dollars. That's what built it. And that would be a drastic turn. So my only, without turning this into a political rant, would be to have everybody be acutely aware of where House Bill 5108 is in the House. Last I knew, it was still in the Resources Commission from the House. And that would change the landscape because it would not go through the Natural Resources Commission. It would not have any of the economic impact statements. It would not have any of the biological impact statements. And to me, that's a step in the wrong direction.
And that's why that bill is being called the bad commercial fishing bill, for sure.
That is correct.
Hey, I'm thinking about, Fishtown and Leland. I can't think of a more... Look, we've got a lot of beautiful ports, a lot of beautiful settings in our state, but I can't think of anything more quaint and cool than Fishtown and fishing out of Leland. You're in a great spot there, Jeff.
What's really interesting is we take people from all over the country, if not all over the world, internationally. And most people are taken aback because we can see Pyramid Point. We can see down into Sugarloaf Mountain, down into Good Harbor Bay. We can see the shoreline all along Glen Haven, which is where Craig Plowman is from. That's one of the conversation points when I first met Craig, the gentleman who invited me on the Angler Quest and who comes up fishing now with his grandkids. You can see all of that. You can see Sleeping Bear Point. You can see North and South Manitou Island. They're spectacularly gorgeous. You can see South Box Island. You can see the Leelanau Peninsula. And in the Adawan language, Leelanau would be the land of delight. In addition, we have that crystal clear water where people walk up and down the docks. They have no problem seeing the bass, the smallmouth bass in the river, the perch, and it is truly crystal clear water to the point where it impacts our ability to catch fish on calm, clear days because it's truly crystal clear, 40, 50 feet of visibility a lot of days.
Not like Saginaw Bay.
It's totally different than what I experienced on Saginaw Bay. You can't compare those two systems, but the raw natural beauty of the Leelanau Peninsula is spectacular. It's a great place to fish.
Jeff, I got to let you go. Captain Jeff Tropf of Nothing But Net Charters, the website lelandcharterfishing.com, Nothing But Net Charters, lelandcharterfishing.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, Steve Wyndham of MUCC right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra, 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us, there we go, north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Matt Smith, Outdoor Realtor. Matt, a longtime friend of mine, he's an expert at finding recreational properties and vacation homes, and he can help your family turn a dream into a reality. Learn more online at Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. And by the way, if you're looking for a new home as your primary residence, Matt can help you out there as well. That's Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. And Matt was actually at our first annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp. Now, I told you in the first hour, I put my name on the event. The idea kind of was mine. It came out of a Wednesday Night Live, and I agreed to promote the event and be part of the event. The work was done by the folks at MUCC, in particular, Steve Wyndham. Steve made this thing happen. He's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Steve, have you caught up on your rest yet?
Oh yeah, Mike. You know, it was a great day, and I'm actually just itching to get back on the course and play around here soon.
Well, and we lucked out, man. That night after the event, they got 3 inches of rain, and they closed the course the next day for flooding. So things went our direction. I think for a first-year event, it was a tremendous success. But what do you think from your perspective?
Oh, it was amazing. You know, the community really showed up. We had some really awesome raffle prizes, fishing charters, firearms, crossbows, your primal hunting blind. It was awesome. People came in droves. Everybody had a great time. It was a great pace of play. And we're just a couple $100 shy of our $10,000 goal. So if anybody wants to help us reach out, we can take some donations still and get those dollars up. That's an interesting point. You can still contribute. Go to mucc.org, and then what? In the upper right, there's a button that says help or contribute or something? There's a donate button there, and then we can make sure that the Mike Avery Golf Outing is listed under the drop-down, or they can reach out directly to me at swyndham@mucc.org, or give me a shout, my office line, and we can take the donations too.
Oh, that's a great idea. I think so this money, right from the start, we've said it's going to be used for MUCC's youth camp. What specifically? What do you guys need? Where is this going as far as at the camp?
Yeah, definitely. It's going to help with our programming and our repair budget too. So, you know, a lot of our programming revolves around fishing, paddling, kayaking, shooting 22s, our archery range. You know, we've got a great grant to help us build a new range down there, but also we need repairs on our bathrooms. We need some plumbing lines done. We need a new water heater in the lodge. And so it's going to be spread around to help us do some major repairs, but also increase our quality of programming at the camp for the young people.
I think there is no doubt, if you're willing to work with me, that we're going to do this again next year, and I see no reason to take it anywhere other than the West Branch Country Club. Tom there at the club did a wonderful job. The food was great. The facilities were great. We don't have a date yet, but let's do it again next year, Steve.
We're going to be, so as soon as we have a date, we'll be making an announcement, and we're going to have many more things just to continue to build and grow.
Yeah, it'll get bigger and better from here on out, that's for sure. One of the things you stressed at that event was MUCC membership. And I've actually had several people reach out to me and say, hey, Avery, I'm going to join MUCC now after hearing more about this. But give me your spiel right here on air. Why would we want to join MUCC?
Yeah, great. So, Mike, the MUCC is the nation's largest, most successful statewide conservation organization. And as a member-driven organization, every single member of MUCC has a voice in Lansing in the State House. And so if you live in Iron Mountain in the UP, if you live in Portage, if you live down in Bedford, no matter where you live or where you recreate, MUCC is going to give a voice to you and the entire hunting, fishing, and trapping community. We're fighting for our rights to hunt, fish, and trap. We are pushing back against the slow erosion of our outdoor heritage, and every member can contribute. And that $35 a year, you know, we gave away that 400 Legend, that brand new caliber firearm there, and that 400 Legend, that box of ammo is more than $35. But anybody who wants to get signed up can join us. $35 a year, you're going to get the premier Michigan Outdoor Journal, Michigan Outdoors Magazine, and you're going to be tuned into all the things that we're doing to live our mission to unite citizens to conserve, protect, and enhance Michigan's natural resources and outdoor heritage.
$35 a year.
And an invitation to a golf outing.
An invitation to a golf outing. Well, the front nine, we actually started on the back nine. Our first nine, we played fairly well. The second nine, man, it got so hot and muggy. That's our excuse. It got real hot and muggy, and we just got tired. My son was hitting tremendous drives, and the rest of us just couldn't back him up. But, man, it was a great outing, Steve. I appreciate you basically being the guy who made this happen, you and everybody at MUCC. And I would encourage people then to go to the website, mucc.org, click on the donate button. Steve, I'm going to ask you to add that link there, and I'll actually post that to see if we can't add a few more dollars to what we raised on that event.
That'll be awesome. Yep. And we are looking forward to everybody joining us next year. And thank everyone who came out. And Mike, thank you for your voice and putting your name on it. And if this is what I get to call work every day, I'm a pretty happy man.
Amen, brother. MUCC.org. Steve Wyndham. Steve, we'll talk again soon. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment, by the way, Ask Avery, sponsored by Security Credit Union, another sponsor of the golf outing. Lance Valentine is going to jump in at the last minute and talk about how you troll crankbaits through weeds. And this is a question that came up here this morning on our Behind the Mic segment. And then coming up in hour number 3, Richard P. Smith talks bear hunting and more right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan, including 98.5 WUPS out of Houghton Lake, WILS out of Lansing, 1320 AM, and WSJM 94.9 FM out of St. Joe. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way the Ask Avery segment works is this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. Send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com with your suggestion. A friend of mine did that. His name is Mark Holston. He sent me that and a question about, well, I'm going to save you what the question was because I'm trying to find an answer for it right now, Mark. And I haven't come up with it yet. So as we were in the studio this morning, I said, okay, to our live stream audience on Behind the Mic, give me a question. What would you like us to answer in the show? And the topic of trolling in floating weeds. And it came up because Lance Valentine, Sir Lancelot of Teachin' Fish and teachin'fishing.com, has been sneaking into my honey hole. And he's fighting weeds in there. So, all right, Lance, if you're going to go in there, you at least got to join us on the air to help me out with the answer, Lance, to the question of how do you keep weeds, floating weeds in particular, off your baits while trolling?
Well, a lot of it is rigging. So the way I rig up is this. I calibrate my line counter. So 100 on the line counter is 100 feet of measured line. We do that first. Then I put on an 8-millimeter rubber bead. You can buy them. There's a company called Pucci, P-U-C-I, that sells them. But you can buy them on Amazon.com. I think they're 100 beads for $6. They're just type in 8-millimeter rubber bead. It's just a rubber bead. I put that on my line. Then I put on a crankbait snap, tie that to my main line. Then I run a 6-foot leader with a high-quality ball bearing swivel at one end and a crankbait snap at the other. I attach that swivel to the crankbait snap on my main line. And now I've got the bead, crankbait snap, swivel, and then my 6-foot leader with a crankbait snap at the other end to put my lure on. And what happens is that bead going through the water collects a lot of the weeds in front of the bait. Does it get them all? No. Does it keep it cleaner? You can probably fish about twice again as long as you can without that bead. So if you're going every 5 minutes and reeling your lines, with that bead system, you can probably go, about 10 minutes without doing it. Now, it will catch the weeds. You'll start to see your board kind of fall back a little bit, and at some point, you got to reel in and pull the weeds off the bead. But that bead does give you a little bit of protection, if you will, a little bit of shield, grabbing those floating weeds before they can actually get back to your lure.
So the bead goes on the main line, and then there's what? Walk this through me again.
So bead goes on the main line, and then I tie a crankbait snap onto the main line. And then I tie a leader about 6 feet long, and that leader has a ball bearing swivel at the end that hooks to the crankbait snap on the main line, and then a crankbait snap at the other end to attach your lure to. And what that swivel does at the other end is it gives you the ability, if you do get some weeds, you get a small fish, your leader isn't going to wind up and get all twisty and get all twirly. But you never want to put, with walleye baits, especially crankbaits, you never want to put a snap swivel at the bait. You want just a crankbait snap. But that swivel of 6 feet away gives us a little bit of help if we happen to hook a weed and the lure starts to spin or we catch a small fish. What that does is that eliminates that line twist.
Why no swivel at the bait?
What happens with a swivel, swivels are designed to take out line twists. So if you get a crankbait that really has aggressive action, at some point it'll really start to move, and that swivel will go, uh-oh, this lure's starting to spin, and the swivel will turn, and what that does is that makes the lure go dead. So you just want a high-quality crankbait snap with a round bend at the end, and that lets that bait work at its maximum performance, and the swivel isn't actually stopping the bait from getting its actual action.
If you get a small piece of a floating weed on a crankbait that does not affect the action, will that still keep a fish from biting it?
I don't think so. Not when those fish are aggressive, especially up in the shallow water that we usually deal with the weeds. Those fish are usually up shallow. I've caught fish with actual gob of weeds on the front hook and they hit the back hook of the bait, or 2 or 3 weeds on the back hook and they hit the back hook. I've caught fish with weeds on the bill of the bait and they actually still hit the bait. So I think those fish, when they're in that shallow water and they're aggressive, I don't think, as long as it doesn't affect the action of the bait, I don't think they really care.
Last quick question. What are your thoughts on taking the front hook off a crankbait?
I think it should absolutely be done. It saves you a lot of time from getting untangled in the net.
Lance Valentine of Teachin' Fishin', teachinfishin.com. I appreciate you, buddy, jumping at the last minute and answering this week's Ask Avery question. Stay out of my honey hole. Remember, I got cameras out there. I'm watching you.
I know. I appreciate it, buddy.
All right, thanks, Lance. Lance Valentine of Teachin' Fishin', teachinfishin.com. And again, a big thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for, number one, sponsoring the golf outing that was such a big success. I appreciate that very much. And for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. You can check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. If you have a question for me, send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. If I can't answer it, and there's a good chance I probably can't, well, there's a chance I can't. I will certainly direct it on to somebody else, some expert like this time around, Sir Lancelot, Lance Valentine. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. Speaking of experts, coming up in our third hour this week, Richard P. Smith talking about bear hunting, probably about deer regulations for the fall, maybe about the NRC and more, and then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. That's all coming up in hour number 3. My name is Mike Avery. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't hesitate. I'd love to hear from you. Reach out. Let me know what's on your mind. Hour 3 coming right up.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And as always, so glad to have you along with us as we continue this journey into a celebration. Actually, it's not a journey, it's a celebration. It's a celebration of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan, of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and wildlife issues and conservation issues. And I appreciate you being along. As we are now in the month of August, summertime starting to wind down, starting to wrap up here. Not tomorrow, not in the next week or so, but you can now see it out there on the horizon. The end of summer is out there, which means fall is right behind that. Fall to me means, there's some great fishing opportunities, but primarily the hunting seasons. I've talked about this before. I can't get real excited about deer hunting season. I just don't like what it has become here in Michigan. but I respect the fact that many people do love it. They are passionate about it. It's what they live for. I get that. Cool. I'm glad that you are there. I will deer hunt because I want to continue to be a part of our state's history and tradition and my family history and tradition of deer hunting. I will also be bear hunting this year. I'm real excited about that. I will be bear hunting in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, in the Newberry District, in the 3rd season with Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer. But when I think about deer hunting, when I think about bear hunting, there's one guy's face that really comes to mind. Richard P. Smith. In my mind, again, Richard is he's an absolute expert when it comes to, in particular, those two areas, deer hunting and bear hunting. So it seems like an appropriate time to get him back on the show, and he has graciously agreed. Richard, welcome back. How are you?
I'm great, Mike. Congratulations on getting another Michigan bear tag.
Well, I learned that technique from you, my friend.
And I've got one again myself.
Good for you. But you get one every year because you go to the far western Ute, don't you?
Yes. I've got a tremendous streak going of getting them every year by applying for that 3rd hunt.
Well, again, I learned that from you. I love to bear hunt so much that I did not want to wait, 9, 10, 11, 12 years, whatever area I was applying for. So you said, hey, find an area where you've got good resources. In my case, it's Johnny, who will bait for me, and apply for the 3rd season. And I end up getting one every other year, Richard, and I think it works out great.
Yeah.
So what do we talk about this time first? Do you want to talk about bear hunting first? Do you want to talk about deer hunting and deer regs first?
Either one. The bear thing is on the top of my mind.
All right, let's go there because that's top of my mind as well.
Yeah. The 3rd edition of Understanding Michigan Black Bear was published in June, and ever since then I've been distributing it all over the state.
So what's in that book? What does the 3rd edition contain?
There's a chapter on color-phased bears in Michigan, a new chapter. There's a new chapter on bear attacks in Michigan. There's a chapter on the number of bears that are currently in the state, which are, most people are confused about the number of bears. There's no question we have far more than the DNR is estimating because they exclude cubs from their estimate. And cubs are bears too. They just don't include them. And that misleads a lot of people about the number of bears we actually have in Michigan.
So you're saying that's where the confusion comes from. Why would you not include cubs?
They say they don't have enough data on cub production to do so from a wide area of the state. However, this new camera survey they're doing may change that. They may be able to get enough data on the number of cubs. The lead photo in the chapter on how many bears are in Michigan, it tells the whole story. It's a photo of a female with 4 cubs. The current DNR estimates it includes that adult female, but it excludes her 4 cubs. And 3 and 4 cubs are not unusual in Michigan, and some females have as many as 5.
Wow.
So there's a lot of bears out there that aren't being included in the DNR estimates.
I didn't realize that there were sows that were having that many. I thought it was more like a whitetail, single, maybe twins, occasionally triplets. I didn't realize that it was bigger numbers than that.
Oh yeah, the average number of cubs for females is 2.5, I believe, for the state.
Then how long will those cubs stay with that sow before going out on their own?
A year and a half. They're born in the den. They den with their mother again the following winter, and then they separate in late May or June of the following year when they're yearlings, the younger yearlings at that point, a year and a half old.
Will they then, like whitetails, will they form family units and kind of the does hang together, or do we not see that in the black bear world?
Normally we don't. What we do see is young males will disperse from their mother's home range and end up miles away, but their female offspring will adopt a part of their mother's home range, and the females interact. But that's how it works within the bear world.
Richard, is it those young males that have been kind of cast out from the group? Are those the ones we are seeing now in central and mid-Michigan?
Yeah. As far as southern Michigan, too, sometimes they're dispersing looking for an area that isn't currently occupied where they're not going to get beat up by adult males that already have established home ranges. And they keep moving around until they find a place where they feel safe.
Beat up, or even, I mean, you could, will bears get into fights where they actually kill each other?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's been documented plenty of times. And adult males routinely prey on cubs when they get a chance.
I think you told me because if you get them early enough, it puts the sow back into heat again?
That's correct. If a female loses her cubs before July or August, she'll come back into heat because she stops producing milk for the cubs.
All right, going back to the concept of seeing more bears in the southern part of the state and certainly the central part of the state makes me think of your chapter on bear attacks. People down here who do not have the contact with bears that many of our Yooper friends do, sometimes they're afraid of these animals. They think, oh my gosh, there's a bear back there in the woods behind the house. He's going to attack me. That's not the case at all, is it?
No, not normally. It's very rare to have a bear attack you. But the most common situations involve a female with cubs where the female thinks her cubs are threatened and she'll attack to protect them in a defensive manner. Most of the attacks involve females with cubs that occur in Michigan.
So the old statement about you don't want to get between a sow and her cubs, there's truth to that.
Oh, definitely. One of the cases involved a guy who was walking his dog on his property, and there were a lot of blueberries along this logging road that he was walking on, and some cubs belonging to a female had already crossed the road as the guy walked his dog by, so he was between the female and her cubs, and she attacked.
How often does this happen? I mean, when somebody gets attacked by a bear, it becomes big news. But how often does it happen?
Maybe once a year, once or twice a year at the most. There was an incident in April this spring, where a deer hunter was out looking for shed antlers, and he surprised a bear at close range, and it started to run away, but it circled back toward him and was making threatening noises. He happened to have a handgun with him, and he killed the bear when he started shooting when it was 12 steps away.
Oof.
And still coming.
And I'm sure that case was then investigated by DNR. Was that considered, I don't want to say justified, but was he okay with that, or did he get charged?
No, he was not charged. They figured he was in self-defense, legitimate protection, and they confiscated the bear, of course.
Sure.
But there were no charges.
I've heard this, maybe you can confirm or deny this, that nationally that more people are actually hurt or killed by black bears than grizzlies.
Yeah, there are far more black bears than grizzlies, and more people spending time in black bear habitat than grizzly habitat.
So that would make sense.
Yes.
When does the baiting season start? It's like 2 weeks away now, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the first hunt in the UP starts on September 11th this year, so 31 days before that is August 10th.
So it's coming right up.
It's legal to start baiting.
All right, listen.
Coming up quick.
Yeah, it is coming up quick. Richard, we got to take a break. You know how this all works. When we come back, though, I want to talk about baiting. For bears, where do you bait? What do you use to draw them in? Of course, we'll talk about judging the size. Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here. And probably towards the end of the conversation, let's work in whitetails and rule changes and NRC and all that good stuff.
Sounds good.
All right, we're talking to Richard P. Smith, outdoor writer, black bear whitetail expert. His website, richardpsmith.com. That's richardpsmith.com. Check out the 3rd edition. Richard, what's the name? Understanding Black Bear, is that the official title?
Understanding Michigan Black Bear.
Thank you. Understanding Michigan Black Bear, the 3rd edition. It's on the website, richardpsmith.com, as well as many other resources as well. We'll take a break. When we come back, continue our conversation with the man himself, Richard P. Smith, right here on Outdoor Magazine. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show. In Holland on WHTC, that's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. You can hear us in Taos on WIOS, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM, 580 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by VersaSkins, Michigan-based VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why buy a bunch of different sets of expensive hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set and snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern? It is so versatile. It makes so much sense. If you need big sizes like 4, 5, 6X, VersaSkins can help you out. Or if you are a saddle hunter, VersaSkins can help you out there as well. It's versaskins.com, versaskins.com. While you are online, I would ask you to check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Also, go to richardpsmith.com. That is the website of well-known outdoor writer, hunting expert, wildlife expert, Richard P. Smith. Richard, we were talking about the baiting season for bear coming up soon. Sometimes we get criticism particularly from non-hunters for the most part, baiting bears. They say, well, why don't you just go out and hunt them the way you should? Why don't you spot and stalk them? Why don't you go face to face with them and walk them down? Is that even feasible or a realistic way to harvest bears?
It's difficult in Michigan with the thick habitat we have that bears normally occupy. Out west where they have open terrain and you can see long distances, it's more practical. We have very few areas in Michigan where that's possible. And we also have laws protecting females with cubs and those cubs. And it's important for hunters to get a good look at bears they see to make sure they're not shooting a bear that's protected. And baiting allows hunters to attract bears into an area where they can view them and make sure they're only shooting legal animals. And it also increases the chances of humane kills. And based on my knowledge, non-hunters as well as hunters support hunting methods that are humane.
I would certainly hope so.
Baiting falls right in line with that.
Yeah, I would certainly hope so. The actual bait that we use to attract bears, is that going to vary around the state, or are there certain things that are just universal in all regions?
Granola is very popular bear bait these days. It's grown increasingly popular in recent years because it stays okay for long periods of time without spoiling, and bears love it.
Then how do you put that bait out there? What is the method of actually distributing it or holding it in the woods for the animals to find?
Well, most people put it on the ground and cover it with logs to prevent small scavengers from accessing the food and ravens. Some people use hollow stumps and hollow logs to put the bait in and cover the top with heavy rocks. That's an option. But most people put it on the ground and cover it with logs.
Is there a maximum you can put out there like there is for whitetail bait in the UP?
Not at the present time. However, if you use corn and nuts, food that deer also eat, apples, you are limited in the amount you can use. In some areas, you may not be. Well, as long as it's covered and not accessible to deer, you can use the corn and apples and stuff that appeal to deer.
It is amazing to me, and I'm thinking about, covering it with logs or boulders or whatever. It's amazing to me just how strong these animals are, because I have seen bear walk up to a bait, even a small bear, and take a log with one hand and just throw it aside like it's nothing. And then I go out there the next day to replace that log, and that thing is heavy. Man, these things are strong.
But they deal with logs all the time. One of their favorite foods is ants or ant larvae in hornets' nests. and they use their claws to rip logs apart routinely to get at that food source. So they deal with moving logs all the time.
So where should we establish a bait? I mean, if you've got an area that is a known, people have been baiting there for years, like we see up in Ontario, sure. But if you're going into a new area, where do you look? Where do you look to start a bait station?
Start looking for natural foods that bears rely on, such as juneberries, blueberries, and look for bear sign, tracks, droppings, feeding sign, and then go to the nearest heavy cover by that food source, put a bait along the edge of a swamp or in an opening in the swamp where bears are going to feel comfortable feeding in the daytime. And keep the prevailing wind direction in mind when selecting a tree to be in.
Well, coming in the daytime, that's really kind of ends up being the key thing, doesn't it? Especially as the season goes on.
It does. And if you select a spot in open hardwoods, the bear are less likely to come during the daylight hours in an open situation.
How often should you refresh that bait?
Well, if you put out a large quantity of bait once a week, that can work. But it's better to. The best way is on a daily basis. Put a small quantity of bait, a 5-gallon bucket or less, every day. That's ideal. But if you can do it every 2 or 3 days, that works. Usually I try and bait every 3 or 4 days prior to the week before hunting season. As the season gets closer, I try and bait more frequently.
Well, and that's, for people who are downstate, that can become a real hassle, which is why I recommend if you live downstate, it's probably a good idea to work with a local person who can bait for you on a regular basis, because you can't be running back and forth every day or every couple of days. At least most people can't.
It's not very practical, and it's expensive with the cost of gas and things like that. And I should mention that it is legal to use barrels on private land only for bear bait. If you have a 50-gallon drum and fill it on private property with bait, that can last a week, between fillings. So that works for some people.
And one of the great things about that barrel is it's a built-in comparison chart, so you know how big your animal is if you're having a hard time judging them.
Exactly. That helps a great deal.
What about, say, in areas where you can't put a barrel out, is there something you can put at that bait site that will help you judge the size of that bear? Because we all know that can be real tough for people who are just getting started.
Yeah. Use a log or a stick by a bait that's 5 or 6 feet in length. A stick that doesn't have any bark on it, it's light in color, shows up in low light. Adult females are a maximum of 5 feet in length from nose to tail. Adult males will be longer than that, and then young bears will be shorter. That's a good ruler. Adult males stand about 3 feet from the ground to their back when they're standing on all 4 feet. You can mark a spot on a tree by a bait that's 3 feet off the ground as a gauge to help you judge the size of a bear, too.
Well, and folks can get a lot more information on Michigan bears and bear hunting with the 3rd edition of Understanding Michigan Black Bears. That's available on your website, richardpsmith.com, richardpsmith.com. Richard, in the couple of minutes we have left, let's turn our attention here a little bit to deer hunting. Thoughts on the NRC's decisions for changes or lack of changes for the 2024 season?
Lack of changes is very accurate. It's a joke. It's unfortunate. The Natural Resources Commission didn't do anything, make any changes to improve deer hunting in the UP. One of the things they did is put a 3-point antler restriction on single deer licenses in Deer Management 122, which is a waste of time. Most of that property in that unit is privately owned. People can set their own antler limits on their property. You don't need a state law to do that. It reduces hunter opportunity, hunter success, and Deer Management 122 is the only unit in UP that has had a deer with chronic wasting disease. Protecting yearling bucks has helped bring that disease to the UP, and it'll increase the chances of more diseased deer showing up in the UP. It's sad. They did nothing. They had an opportunity to increase bear license quotas, to increase fawn recruitment. They didn't do anything. It's unfortunate.
It makes
the mild winter we had last winter is going to do more to help the UP deer population than the Natural Resources Commission did.
It makes me wonder why they even asked the DMI, the Deer Management Initiative groups, to get together, because it doesn't seem like they pay a lot of attention to those suggestions.
No, and one of the proposals from the Lower Peninsula group was to legalize baiting for deer in areas where disease hasn't been detected, which is a perfect way to increase harvest, which is needed in the Lower Peninsula. The data on the TB prevalence shows that a ban on baiting has not reduced the prevalence of TB in Michigan. In Deer Management 452, a ban on baiting has been in effect since 2002. The prevalence rate has not gone down. It's about the same as it was when the ban went into effect. It confirms a ban on baiting is not reducing the prevalence of disease.
Well, Richard, like I've said several times, I'd like to see you on the NRC.
I'd be happy to serve, but I doubt I'm going to be offered that opportunity.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Richard, always a pleasure. I have just started reading the third edition of Understanding Michigan Black Bears. Thank you for that. I will get into it more in the next couple of weeks. And I would encourage people to go to your website, richardpsmith.com, richardpsmith.com, to learn more. Richard, we'll talk again. You can count on it.
Congratulations, or good luck on your bear hunt.
Good luck to you as well, but you don't need luck because you're the man himself, Richard P. Smith. I will need luck. Well, though, I don't know. I'm hunting with Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer. Johnny, are you listening? Almost time to start getting busy out there, buddy. Get out there and start bringing in my black. See, I work with Johnny because Johnny lives there. He knows the area, and he can go out and bait regularly. Where, if I was driving up there every day, or I can't. But I think if you live downstate, working with a good, reputable local bear guide is a great idea. We'll take a break here. Lots more coming up. Well, not lots more. A little more coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on WMLQ in Manistee. That's 97.7 FM. From Manistee to Manistique, WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. And then back down to Saginaw, WSGW 790 AM and 100.5 FM. I am in the studios of WSGW right now. I was in here earlier. Jonathan Dent was in here with me. Well, he bailed out on me after 2 hours, and now Charlie Rude's in here. And Charlie, I got to tell you, people weren't expecting you. They drove by, they saw John in here. They weren't expecting you, and as a result, there is not one car in the parking lot, which is really kind of sad. It's just, you took them by surprise, Charlie, just like you did me. When you walked in the door, you took me by surprise. But both of these guys do a wonderful job. I couldn't do the show without them, and I appreciate your help very much. I want to go back to something that's still very fresh in my mind, and something I'm feeling, I got to be honest, really blessed about. And that's this golf outing that we had this week to raise money for MUCC's youth camp. The event is over now, but I would like to still generate some more money to help out the youth camp and give every opportunity to get kids involved in the outdoors, which is what this whole thing was about. And again, I thanked everybody I possibly could in the first hour. And if I missed you, I apologize. But if you were a part of that event, if you played in the event, if you sponsored the event, I appreciate it so very much. But there's still a way to get involved. If you go to the website, mucc.org/golf, on that page, you'll see a picture of everybody who was involved. It's a big wide-angle picture. There was like 120 of us there, or whatever the number was. And next year it'll be bigger. If you scroll down, there's a button there that says Donate Now. you can still donate now specifically to that cause for MUCC's youth camp. And I would ask you to seriously consider that. MUCC.org/golf. And below the picture of all the smiling people who were there this year, there's a button that says donate or donate now. Think about doing that to help out the cause. And next year, we will go back. I tell you, Tom and everybody at the West Branch Country Club were just wonderful. We will go back there again next year. People are still talking. When they talk about the outing, they say, you know what? The weather was great. The course was great. The people were great. The cause was great. But they're talking about the food. The food was actually really outstanding. MUCC.org/golf and donate to MUCC's youth camp. We don't have a date yet for next year's event, but once we get that all figured out, I will let you know so you can put that on your calendar. Speaking of your calendar, it's looking like our next Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch will be Wednesday, September 18th. Now, I realize for some of you that gets into your bear season and maybe, it'll be small game season, some other things as well. But the only date before that was available was Wednesday, September 11th. That's 9/11. And we originally said, well, let's just go ahead and do it on 9/11. But I can't. I can't in good conscience get together and bring a bunch of people together for what is, in effect, a celebration. A positive, upbeat event. Just couldn't do it. 9/11 just is not, in my mind, it is not the day to have a celebration of that type. That's why we have moved it back to September 18th, the following week. So as you're looking at your calendar, and your calendar is starting to fill up into the fall, why don't you put WNL at the Lumberjack on Wednesday, September 18th? We'd love to have you join us there. What else is going on? Well, we're in the month of August now. How that happened, I'm not quite sure, but it did. So I'm going to encourage you to make the most of the time you have left in this summer season. Fall is coming up just around the corner. I know everybody looks forward to fall. Fall is a great time, but take advantage of what's still out there right now, right? What else is going on? Oh, did you miss your window of opportunity to apply for your Michigan Fall Turkey Tag? I hope not. Because you know you're going to want to use that thing. You're going to be out there bear hunting. You're going to be out there deer hunting. And a bird's going to wander by, and you're going to say, man, I wish I had that fall turkey tag. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. The email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I give that email address several times a week during each show, but I do that for a reason. I sincerely and truly do want to hear from you. I want to know what's on your mind. I want to know about topics you are interested in. I really want you to share your pictures and your videos with me so we can share them with others. If you have kids involved in the picture or video, please use the hashtag #ForwardFuelsTradition. And when you send them to me and I see a kid involved, I can also tag it that way, #ForwardFuelsTradition. If you have a kid involved in the outdoors, and then once a month we pick a winner for a $50 Forward convenience store gift card. So how cool is that? Forward Fuels Tradition. The website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'm also on Facebook. I do a lot of stuff on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I do some YouTube stuff. Very little Twitter stuff. That's usually just a repost of something over on Instagram or Facebook. I've played around with TikTok. I occasionally post videos on TikTok, but it's not the kind of TikTok videos you're used to. You're not going to see the big guy standing in front of a camera doing some weird dance and lip syncing to a popular pop song. Although that might get a few views. Thank you so much for spending part of your day, evening, morning, night, whenever you're listening, with me here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. I do certainly appreciate it. Lots of reasons to do this show, including my weekly visit with my good friend, wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, who is just a wealth of information, a great guy, and an expert when it comes to cooking fish and wild game. David, welcome back. How are you, buddy?
Very nice, Michael. Thank you for the introduction.
Well, it is my pleasure. I mean, I've said this before. It just wouldn't be an Outdoor Magazine TV show or a radio show if at some point we didn't check in with the chef.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much for having me along for the ride.
Always a pleasure. What do you got for us this week, David?
Well, we've got a bronzed catfish. You a couple of catfish recipes. Either people fish for them or they're a byproduct of trolling for walleyes. And catfish are pretty predatory, so you're going to catch them on spoons and crawler harnesses and stuff like that.
And
so,
man, do they put up a fight.
Better than a walleye.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Nice heavy one really puts up a tussle. So on page 5 in the cookbook, we're going to make our own blackening or bronzing spice. And on page 10 in the cookbook is the actual recipe. So to start off with, you're going to need a cup of good paprika, 1 tablespoon each of, say, ground sage, basil, thyme, oregano, marjoram, white and black pepper, whatever spice you like. Use that as your seasoning into this blackening spice, and then add cayenne pepper to how hot you like it, a lot or a little, or, and then blend very well. So once you get that done, or you can just buy some at the grocery store. They make some really nice ones too. And so for the actual recipe, you're going to need about anywhere from 8 to 10 ounces of boneless, skinless fish per person. The other day you mentioned that catfish were slimy. I don't think they are. They have a skin more like a shark.
And believe me, I think that skin is slimy. When I reached into a live well looking for a walleye and grabbed a catfish instead, I went, oh, that thing is slimy.
Oh, okay. All righty. So then you need a cup of blackening spice, either homemade or store-bought, a couple of beaten up eggs, a tablespoon of chopped parsley, some flour, olive oil to saute with. And then if at the end here, we're going to give you a recipe for a sauce also. And you're going to need some buttermilk. And buttermilk is a tenderizer. Some catfish, I've found out over the years, takes a longer time to cook them up to make them tender. So if you're going to use a large catfish, trim away any visible fat and don't use any belly fat either. And I would soak them overnight in buttermilk. It helps tenderize them, so it doesn't take quite as long to cook. So, and then you want to wash it off, pat it dry before dredging it in the flour. If the fillets are very thick, you can butterfly them. So up near the head on a larger cat, it's probably going to be 1.5 to 2 inches thick. So you want to butterfly that up. And the tail piece would be just fine the way that it is. Dredge it in flour, then the beaten up eggs, and then sprinkle on a separate plate, put it on a plate. Sprinkle as much or as little blackening spice as you like. If you like it hot, you could actually add more cayenne to this. And then in a medium hot pan, not too hot because you're going to bronze this. If you want it smoking hot, the pan, then it's going to blacken it. And it has an entirely different flavor than the bronzing does. So in a small amount of oil, in a medium hot pan, brown the fish on both sides. Start with the skin side up, rib side down. When you flip it, the rib side is going to be facing the diner. And you want to, after you do that, put it in the 350-degree oven until the fish is done and flaky. Big fish is going to take a while, even though you did tenderize them with some buttermilk. So when it's nice and kind of flaky, when you can take a couple of forks or 1 fork and try to pull it apart near the thickest part, then it's done. So you want to take a butter Minar sauce, and you could take a stick of butter and half a cup of dry white wine, a little bit of white pepper, the juice of a lemon, more or less to taste, and a couple of fresh parsley, tablespoons of fresh parsley chopped up. So in a saute pan, melt the butter, wine, lemon juice, everything all together. Over high heat, reduce it down until the volume is to your liking, so it's nice, thick, and creamy. You don't if it gets greasy, add a little bit of wine and stir it around in a circle. It'll come right back to creamy. After you cook it down, spoon some on your plate and position the catfish on top. A little bit of parsley sets it off nicely, and to me, catfish are great. We used to sell a lot of this at the restaurant when we had catfish, either bronzed or black.
And you know what, Dave? I was thinking about your comment about slimy, and you're right. They're not slimy. There is not a slime that comes off them. What if I say a better word is slippery? Because they're very, very slippery. Yeah, slippery is a good word. Because like a walleye, you can grab the scales. A catfish, they're just slippery. So yes,
right.
I don't mean to talk poorly about catfish.
Oh, you should, because people love it.
I know they do.
People fish for it. You know, like off of the southern tip.
I know, David. I know. And even the guys out there on Saginaw Bay a couple of weeks ago took them, and they absolutely loved them, and I'm sure they'd love them even better with your recipe. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you. If you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do the show, and I don't know what I would do. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine Radio. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'd love to hear from you, and I look forward to talking with you next week right here on Outdoor Magazine.